Hello, and welcome to Monday Mug Mentions, week number 25. I am so glad to say that I am here drinking a wonderful cup of Nature's Promise organic Sumatra. It is okay. It comes from Stop and Shop, one of my least favorite grocers, to be perfectly honest. I don't love Stop and Shop. I had to go there to pick up some other things, and I decided I would get some of their coffee just to try it out since we've never had it on stream. It's okay. It's not that bad. This is their fair trade Sumatra organic whole bean. So I mean, it is actually organic. So is it deep? Is my voice wrong again, or I am just actually you hear my regular voice? I hope that's the case. If it is the deep voice, we can try our best to fix that yet again. So, I am so glad to see you all. Hello. Wow, there's so many folks in to watch my failure to start up this morning. So let's see here. Chad, Brad, Tim, Rob, Courtney, my lovely wife. Hello. So good to see you. Jennifer, Martin, Rob. Perfect. I'm so glad to see you all. I'm glad my voice is normal. I guess normal means it's more normal, Rob. So thanks for showing up, everybody. It's so good to see you on this Monday. It is, if you can't tell from my office, it is a gloomy Monday here. It has been raining in Rhode Island nonstop for a few days, and I am ready for the rain to stop. But I'm not ready for like the hot to come back. So I guess this is better. Yeah, this is my fake voice. I bring it back up. I actually speak really, really low like I did that one week. Brad, so good to see you. Thank you, Gil. So many of you here this afternoon. It's really, really nice to see y'all. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, the Nature's Promise Organic Sumatra blend is okay. I don't think it's great, but it's not very expensive either. So it might be a nice, like, drinkable coffee that I could have on a regular basis. Maybe I'll try another one sometime. It's I don't know, something about just maybe the Stop and Shop's got a mental thing in there. Like, it really is a tough place to shop sometimes. I have done my best to not go to Stop and Shop if I can. I prefer to go to smaller grocery stores and stuff like that. But like I said, I was in a pinch. Yeah, Jennifer says Stop and Shop only in a pinch. I agree, exactly. You're going to pay $1 more for everything there, right? James Hudson's here. James, so good to see you. I hope your new life in Cali is really becoming comfortable and you're getting to a kickoff. I know when I first moved from Texas up here, like there's an adjustment period, and I know that that's rough, man. I hope you are having a wonderful transition. The kids are doing well. Wife's doing well. I hope Sandra, I hope everyone's enjoying their transition to California from I think it was Alabama, if I remember. So yeah, I know that I know that change to the other coast, and it is. You're transported. I do miss HEB. We were spoiled by HEB. If you don't know what HEB is, it actually stands for Howard Edward Butt, and that is the man who founded the grocery store that is all over South Texas where I grew up. If you wonder why they call it HEB, well, it's because his name was Howard Edward Butt, and Butt's store probably would be pretty cool, but HEB worked out better, and HEB is a staple of South Texas and sort of the southern U.S. states in terms of being an amazing grocery store with amazing, like, really good service. I mean, I remember if there's anything I needed there, like deli meat or like a certain cut of meat or something, you just ask the butcher and they get it for you right away. I do not tend to have that same experience at a Stop and Shop up here. So yeah, I love HEB. I really, really miss having one for sure. So good to see y'all. Sean, thanks for joining. Yuri, good to see you. Good to see you, Yuri. Thank you for joining. So yeah, the coffee's all right. Let's move on from it though, and let's get into the games this week. One of the games I want to talk about, I've got right here with me. Before we do that, we can talk about, I guess, some fun. There's just a pile of stuff over here. Mail call week / game acquisition week, whatever you want to call it. So first things first, Rob, who's here, I am a supporter of his Patreon, and he had a competition where you were entered for entries and extra entries if you're a Patreon supporter for this beautiful box here. This is a dice box. If you go check out the competition, you can get the links to everything. And if Rob, if you want to do a little plug here for the makers of the box, but if you guys look at this box, isn't that incredible? And then if you open it up, you're going to see a secret about something we're working on right now. Don't worry about those. Those are just dice with different kinds of ingredients from Stir Fry ET on them. And then there's one dice that's a six-sided. I don't know what we're going to do with those. Maybe a little fun game. But this is a really cool box, man. Like, it's got these magnets that sort of, snap everything back together. And it's a nice dice holder / miniature holder for me right now. Dogmite Games hooked this up to Rob, and I won it in the competition. And this is beautiful, man. Like, I don't know if you guys see this. This is super pretty, and like, that's just really well done. It's super durable too. Like, this is going to be in my collection forever for sure. And then again, it holds dice kind of in their place wherever you want them. It's cool. This is super cool. Thank you, Rob. Thank you to Dogmite Games for running that competition with Rob. I know Rob got one of these as well as part of his. He's got one to keep, and I got this one, and I'm really happy with this. This is like, I don't know. This is cool. This is one of the cooler accessories I've gotten. So then I also was with my wife at Target, and we decided we were going to look for a couple things, and I picked up a copy of the new Quanchi Moria art, and I really hope I am pronouncing his name correctly. Somebody can totally fix that for me if not, but I think I got it right. The game, and this is the game, which is just two decks of, one deck of 1 through 100, and then some, the other stacks to place them on. If you've never seen the game, this is a really cool one, but the artwork on these cards is amazing. I actually also used this copy to play The Mind with my wife the other night, and we played like 3 games of The Mind. We really enjoyed it. But if you look at this artwork, I'm going to have to get it kind of kicked to the side. Like, if you look at the cards, each set of 10 has a different kind of like amazing pattern on it. And they're just really, really good looking. Like, I mean, this is just really, really, it's cool. Like, it's a good visual experience while you're playing, as well as, just a fun thing to do. The game is a fun game. So I really, really think that if you don't have a copy of the game, you should get one with the Quanchi Moria art. It's amazing, and it's available at Target. I'm sure it's going to be on the Pandasaurus website and stuff like that. I would assume. I'm probably assuming too much. I don't know. They may have a Target exclusive here, but this is really awesome. So while we were there, we also saw a game that I got to test at Unpub 8. It was pretty much done at the time that we tested it, but I played a prototype, almost final prototype of Dude, the game. It's a game where you say dude, and that is absolutely what you do. You just say dude in different ways. There are different cards in the game, and they have different spellings of dude. And you're trying to say dude the same as someone else, and notice that you both have the D-E-W-D spelling. So dude. You've got that spelling. And as soon as you both think you've got the same spelling, you lay your card down, and simultaneously, if you do have the same spelling, you go sweet, and then you keep going, and the first person to run out of their cards first wins. It's again, I don't know if you ever played Happy Salmon. It's got a very similar feel to that, but it's just saying dude. And then I was only going to pick up dude, but I asked Courtney which of the two she liked the best, and she actually liked More Dude. And More Dude is you saying dude, but instead of spellings, it's roles. So there's surfer, robot, pizza box dude, pirate dude, ghost dude, and cowboy dude. So if you're, pirate dude, you've got to say dard. And if you're, surfer dude, you got to say dude, and you got to match those up with other people. That's a different movie, but I also enjoy that movie. Brad says, I think that'd actually go over quite well in my Monday night board gaming group at the bar. Dude, I think it would be sweet. Rob says that game really brings the room together. Okay, I see where we're going with this. Their table was right across from us. It was hilarious the entire weekend. Jennifer, I couldn't imagine. As a publisher, I could imagine going insane hearing the words "dude" screamed all weekend right across from you. I could see as how some other publishers could go like, okay, I'm trying to sell my big long Euro game, but at the same time, that energy around your booth is awesome. It is so much fun to see people just having that much fun and doing those sorts of things. Like I remember when Happy Salmon came out and walking through. It was actually well after it came out. This was at New York Toy Fair last year. Or this year, I was walking through and I remember seeing the Happy Salmon tables just sort of set out in the front, and I mean, yeah, it's there's people flailing around. The energy is just sort of drawn to that area because people are moving around and they're very active. So I think that's table presence, of course, is something huge. But for Dude, I mean, that's such a simple idea, right? You can just say, okay, you just say Dude, look at the card, it's spelled a different way, or you're a different character. It's just so easy and simple to explain, but it's fun when you do it. You can identify with it. It's I think I talked about North Star Games marketing on this and how easy this would be to sell based on just the way it sells itself at a convention by seeing people do it, and then also the shelf presence is pretty amazing. I mean, y'all saw those boxes. If you've ever watched the movie, and even if you haven't, this is probably going to catch your eye a little bit. Dude, more Dude, what is that? And they're right next to each other in a stack box in Target. So it's really, really clever. So I want to talk about another game with an amazing shelf presence in terms of the way it works, and a really cool just like, wait, what is that? And that's what this week's games are. They're like themes that are totally out there, and we're not really talking about a mechanism as much as the idea of using a theme that's not been used. We sort of touched on that with Record, but not in the way that these two particular games did. So the first one is Re-Extinction by Razlo and published by Breaking Games and Ad Magic. And I don't have any photos. I just have my copy right here, as a matter of fact. And if you look at this, anyone who grew up in the era that I did knows that this is a Sega Genesis game box. Now, it's a little thicker than a Sega Genesis game box, but it's a Sega Genesis game box likeness, and it looks very cool. You see this and you go, wait, what is that? Is that a Sega game? Is that a board game? And then you flip it around and you start reading about it, and it's actually a game where you are building combiner robot dinosaurs. And I guess you could say that dinosaurs is a theme that's done, but I don't think combiner robot dinosaurs is one that's really all that common. On top of that, these dinosaurs are going extinct by battling essentially one another. If you can find me another game with robot battling dinosaurs, then I guess I'll concede the point that this isn't a unique and first-time theme. But in my eyes, this is, and it's really, really a fun, silly little game as well. It's got a similar thing to Dude, where you can just sort of start playing and you explain to people that this is the way the defense and attack works, and it's very, very simple. It's based on simple iconography, and it's got this silliness to it that I really, really like. You can combine hundreds of different types of dinosaur robots by putting the 3 stacks of cards together, and it uses different shapes of cards as well. It uses these unique cards that are elongated, and you stack them up and they end up making one large card, and I really, really like that as well. It's clever. Razlo's a very clever and sort of outside the box thinking game designer, and I really enjoy people who work in that fashion. So this is one of the games that I was like really, I think at PAX East this year I made sure to go over, pick this up and play it, and picked up a game right away. Razlo is a friend of mine, but I also really, really think this is a clever game and it's fun. I also love the box. I mean, that's just, isn't that so cool? I mean, and each of the sides, I don't know if you've noticed, they have different stuff on them. So if you have multiple boxes, you can actually put a different, sort of dinosaur together by putting the different sides of the box together, which I think is also really cool. I like when people do cool things with packaging. So that's Re-Extinction, and that's the tabletop game with an incredibly unique theme. I would say that the Dude's got a pretty unique theme of just saying dude and that sort of thing as well. So I think they both share something there. I do want to try something different this week. So this is going to be interesting. Let's see if this works. The game I want to talk about is from Newsoft. It is called Ace of Seafood. And a lot of dude comments. Yuri says he's loving graphic novel adventures right now. Andrew, my partner in Yanaguana, actually, Yuri, has those. He backed that as well. And he's actually playing those as research for the RPG project that we're working on with Ian Moss about business cards. So I'm really excited to see what he learns from reading those. They're a little different than what we're aiming at, but it's always good to just see what's in the spaces that you're working in. Rob says he he loves CS. Yeah, for sure. Brad says, dude. Yuri, I think that they're responding to that box art. Jim says, yeah, I love that box art. Yeah, the Re-Extinction box art is really, really clever. I like it quite a bit. Now Ace of Seafood already has a very, very strange word choice for its title. Now, normally I would just put up some video. I'm going to do something a little bit different this week. Instead of just putting up video, I'm actually just going to play Ace of Seafood for a few minutes while I talk to you guys about it. I hope this goes well. I haven't tried this too many times on the stream, but all we're going to do is we're going to like snap our fingers like that, and that pops me down over here, and that pops Ace of Seafood up right there. So I am going to just start. I have not played this game in a very long time. It probably says I don't have even a save because it's been, I think, a beta when I played. But let's say, I think of our background. This is what it tells us. Tell us your background. Is our background sardine, mackerel, shrimp, salmon, or spiny lobster? I don't feel shrimp. I feel spiny lobster sometimes. I think I'm going to go spiny lobster. Its fate is to crawl around. So it is the future. Human mind is separate from the body, but is not yet forgotten forms of life. Okay, press any button. And then it drops you into the middle of a strange ocean. And I'm going to use this sort of tutorial keyboard to just fly around showing you what I do, which is shoot other weird fish with some sort of laser. I don't know what it is. It doesn't tell you what it is. You're just going to try and lock on the target. So I'm supposed to press the middle mouse button to lock onto a target. You see that? And if I'm locked on, I'll automatically look at it. Now, in terms of what's happening here, who knows? I mean, this is not a game where they're giving you much information. I hold my stance and I aim to shoot in a specific direction. Got it, thanks. Lots of different life forms from lots of different places. And I can shoot different ways. This is one of the weirdest games I've ever played in my life. I'm not sure what the goal is. Every time I've ever seen someone streaming it, they're talking similarly here to me. They have no idea what they're doing. We have allies. Your allies can attack or act as bait, and we can send them that way to do certain things, but we're essentially just shooting around an ocean with a crustacean. Yeah, I don't really... I have a bunch of decoys out, and then I can move quickly with the shift button. And then you lose stamina for doing that. I mean, this is it. I've done this many times. I think I've done the tutorial about 8 or 9 times. I don't understand what I'm doing, but it's silly and it's fun. And usually you get lost playing in it, right? And so there's a little map, and you start going towards reefs and things like that. But there really is no direction past what you see here. It is a really silly, fun game where you can just do weird things in an ocean with a crustacean. There are games that exist underneath the ground, or underneath the water, and that do some things and have story and narrative. But this is one of the weirdest games I've ever played in my life. It's come up in a lot of different circles, and when you're playing it, you just kind of keep going through the ocean, keep shooting other things, and you're trying to get to like places you haven't been before. I guess that's what drives it. But really, I think the fun portion of it is simply just fooling around in the ocean with some weird little creatures. That is the entire sort of experience. I'm not sure, there's like boss creatures. That's what this one is here. I'm not sure beyond that what most people do in terms of coming back to the game, or if they play regularly or anything like that. But I've seen this streamed quite a few times, and usually that's the case, is that there's just this sort of like battle, and you're going to see here some of the creatures fight back. This is more like a sort of 3D shump, maybe, I guess is what you'd call it, where you're just trying to shoot a boss creature. But this is the extent of the game, is sort of I guess you'd call it underwater dogfighting with strange, creatures, sea creatures. and that's it. I'm not going to continue to put you guys through this. I know you're all saying, what in the heck is going on? But this is one of the strangest games ever made. It's called Ace of Seafood. I guess the idea being that, like, you know, you're potentially the ace pilot in the ocean. It's really a stretch. Again, what is the theme? I don't know. It's really silly. None of it makes a whole lot of sense. And that's pretty much the entire game. So in terms of a theme, I don't think that they were trying to capitalize on ocean or pirate or anything of that nature. I think essentially they were just trying to do whatever they could. And I am going to shut it down now. I guess you guys could see there's sort of a game there that keeps going. But you've got your spiny lobsters, and you can, you know, do all sorts of fun things like that. It's a weird game, no doubt. And I think that there's a totally like viable way to incorporate weird themes into games, even as weird as you're a crustacean in the ocean who is battling others with lasers. And I think that you can really sort of like maybe even catch fire with some of these sorts of things. To be perfectly honest, there's quite a few games that have some really strange themes that are in my top list, maybe my top 25. Biblios by Steve Finn and published by Aiello has a theme of... Gosh, I don't even know if I can explain it. The theme of Biblios is sort of that you're doing a library thing and you're trying to put certain things in a library back where they go, or sort of manage a library, I guess, is the kind of... that's not even a good explanation of it. It's a weird theme about library management and sort of how certain manuscripts may be worth more than others if you really break it down, but it's strange. Biblios has a very weird sort of theme, but it's one of my favorite games. It has incredible mechanisms. The theme works well in terms of I guess you could say you feel like you're doing those things, although I tend to see that one as a mechanically better game. You can break outside of the normal themes that are used on a regular basis. I mean, that's something I think that I would like to see more often. I know that, you know, there's some great zombie games. There's some great fantasy games. There's a bunch of great games in those normally used themes. But essentially, I don't know, the games I tend to gravitate to as a publisher are the ones that are maybe a little bit outside of that, or have a way that they could do something different using those. So yeah, it's so there's some comments about Ace of Seafood here, and then I'll move on to the marketing stuff. But yeah, exactly. Daniel, welcome. I'm glad you made it. Brad says this makes complete sense to me. Rob says, yeah, it's a weird game. Mom says that's a very strange game. It is indeed. Brad says poor spiny lobster. I agree with that as well. I played poorly, probably. I'm sure there are people who are good at Ace of Seafood, but it's just such a weird game. And Sean says I would have called this Seafood Lasers or Sea Fighters of the Deep. Yeah, Ace of Seafood is a very strange name. Again, it is a weird game. Every time I've seen it, or anyone showed it to me, or anyone's played it, you know, it's always the discussion is how weird an idea it is. I think there's a number of reasons that people gravitate to it. It's sold well on Steam. My guess is because people just go, wait, what is this? And they want to see it. And so, again, there's something to that, you know, the idea of doing things that way and having a completely out there theme. I think guitars is a new theme for board game to a certain extent, but it's really not that out there of a theme. Guitars are pretty universally recognized as sort of a somewhat... in style thing. Guitars have never really gone out of style. So I would say that, you know, there's not been a trend per se of robot combiner or ocean battle games where lobsters are shooting each other under the ocean. So I think, you know, you can do essentially all sorts of weird things. And I agree with some of the comments here. I think people are saying that, you know, this could be something like Gerald said they had access to high quality seafood models from another project and wanted to make a game. It's possible, or it's possible that this was somebody's dream and they wanted to see seafood laser wars come to life. It's you never know, but I think it is an interesting idea just to start spawning. Let's think outside the box. Let's not think of the regular. I understand zombies are cool sometimes, and fantasy medieval stuff is cool sometimes. I enjoy a lot of those tropes, even some of those games in them. But I really would like to see some more things that are just weird that end up doing really cool thing. I'll be honest, Dinosaur Island I think falls in this genre of being, dinosaur games aren't that popular. I think what Dinosaur Island did was turn them a little more popular. Re-Extinction I think is a completely different thing. But in terms of the way that Dinosaur Island conveys the sort of park and the fun and the play of it is a really weird theme. The fact that people can be eaten and all that sort of stuff, that's a really weird theme that I think works really, really well. So if you look at that as a case point, I mean, what did the most recent Kickstarter for it did, I think $2 million plus, which is, or something like that. I may be wrong on the number, but whatever it was vastly successful, unbelievably successful. And that's from a pretty weird out there theme. I think if you're looking for what maybe the thing that you're going to pitch to the next publisher meeting might be. Maybe it's the weird thing. Or just give that option. Say, this is themed around this, but, maybe a weird thing, right? It's Eric. Good to see you, Eric says, sup. Brad says, well, it's not Goat Simulator, but then again, what is, right? Yeah. So Goat Simulator is another thing where you're just a goat running around, just knocking stuff over, just tearing stuff up, and just being a sort of weird goat in this world, and you get points for wrecking havoc on the world. That's another weird, just, not a theme that's been done a bunch of times. And now it's been copied a bunch, right? With other things, not just goats, cats, and all sorts of things like that. So the media I want to talk about this week is Cassie and Mike, who run the Indie Game Report, and that's the indiegamereport.com. If you guys have not seen this site, it is focused on independent publishers and designers, and it's really, really, really cool. Essentially, I talked to Cassie for a moment just to get an idea of what their mission and goal at the site is, and essentially, from what I gather, they want to help promote small independent publishers and developers and designers progress by putting their work on display, by putting their games, at the forefront of their review content. So they do previews, reviews, things of that nature, and show off, Kickstarters. They even do introspective sort of articles about things in the industry. Actually, Cassie, the reason that we recently started talking again, or I think I had reached out once about videos on her other site, but we were talking because she asked, what do developers do in the board game industry? And if you're a developer, I'd like to talk to you and know a bit more. And that's one of the hats I wear at Yanaguana, although, we have a lot of others. One of the ones I currently wear is development on projects that come in. Andrew and I co-develop a lot of projects. Currently, Bloom that we're working on is sort of, Steve O'Torres, the designer, is super, super talented. And we're lucky to get to develop with such a talented designer to be able to go and move things back and forth and sort of move this game along. And it's come leaps and bounds just by making small tweaks and changes and having some fun with the way that we develop. We talked a little bit about that, and I shared some insight into what that process is like and the different things. Development can mean a lot of stuff, but for the most part, it means getting that product ready to be better and sent out into the world. So I'm really, really happy to sort of just signal boost for Cassie and Mike and everybody else there. I think they've got a group of people who submit content, including Dan Letzring, who's had 5 successful Kickstarters. So, if you are a friend of indie publishers, I think you should be a friend of the Indie Game Report. It's like a perfect thing. Sean, Julie says, are we going back to the toe fungus mushroom growing game? I might be interested in talking about that at some point. I think that toe fungus is totally okay, all right. I'm not gonna pun on stream. Okay, so Eric Slauson says Octodad. That's another weird, fun game with like a really fun theme. Courtney says Harrison loves Goat Simulator. You guys have no idea. My son loves Goat Simulator. He loves just running around, knocking stuff over in real life and also in Goat Simulator. So it is super fun. I like watching him play Goat Simulator too. I love watching my kid play video games because it just reminds me of how much I enjoy playing video games too. So, yeah, if you guys have not checked it out, check out some of their articles, especially that upcoming piece that Cassie's writing about development. If you've ever been interested in the difference between game design and game development, I think that would be a really, really good article to check out. I know it's coming in the near future. I don't have an exact date for it, but she's gathering information from some really, I mean, I'm the bottom of that barrel. She has got, people like John Gilmore and J.R. Honeycutt, if I remember, responding, telling her about what development is. That's those folks have far more experience than I do in that arena. So you should definitely go check out the site, add it to your RSS feed, whatever you need to do. Make sure you see their content coming out. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about this week in terms of marketing is Target stores and a Gen Con promo code. This was probably part of the reason for being able to pick up things like this and the game and Dude, is all of these things came with a coupon from Gen Con. If you put in the Gen Con code, you get 10% off, and you could stack that with any other kind of offer that you maybe had. So we were able to get a really, really great deal on getting a bunch of games and getting to try these out for some of our stuff for research upcoming, especially the Choose Your Own Adventure. That's one of the things that we really need to look into for the way that we're working. I think I saw Ian earlier mention that the graphic novel adventures are ones he needs to do for research. Yeah, that's it, research, not for my own personal enjoyment. One of the coolest things about being a board game publisher or designer or developer is that a lot of times your research is straight up playing games. I think I spend a lot of time, less lately than I'd like to, but a lot of my time, especially earlier in the year, was spent playing board games and seeing what was popular, seeing what was, tastemakers were looking at and what the tastemakers were making. And that led us to pick up some games that I'm really, really happy with right now. I cannot wait to tell you about a few of them. They are really hard to do in terms of the way we can talk about them, because we're like contractually obligated not to mention things until we are ready to rock with real product in hand. So it's one of them's working with an IP, and it can be very difficult at times. But we do have Bloom coming up, as many of you know. We've also got the Cookie Bandit game that I've mentioned a few times that we're working on moving forward. Ian Moss and I are working on that RPG that uses your business cards a bit and gamifies your business card. And we've got quite a few other projects in the tank right now. We're looking at quite a few things that. Everything else that's on that board I cannot say a word about that, or I could get in trouble. So the other ones are really fun. I will say this. If you are a board game designer and you have interest in working on an IP that is a video game, I have two others in the barrel that I need to speak with some designers about, and I need to find designs for these games. So if you have anything in the racing or dexterity world, you might want to shoot me an email and let's chat. So we are actively currently seeking essentially a pair of designs, not necessarily from the same designer, but that emulate racing to a certain extent, and or another one would be potentially dexterity or programming. So if you want to talk about those, unfortunately what we have to do is we have to sign some paperwork that says you cannot talk about those to anyone. And then we can discuss exactly what those IPs are and things like that and go forward. But this is a sort of open call for a few designs in that realm. This would be things that are not necessarily finished but are able to be adapted, but definitely have a good solid set of bones around them. We are working on some ideas, but if another designer is ready to rock, that's one of the things that we do as a developer is bring things in and adapt them to projects we're working on already. So that is one of the biggest things that I think that I could talk about on the marketing aspect is the way that Target bought right into the Gen Con hype. Like, as soon as Gen Con was over, this promo was up on Target stores. Every single board game you saw said Gen Con. If you used that promo, you got 10% off. This is a mutually beneficial marketing tactic. First of all, Target is using the already marketed Gen Con sort of post-haul photos that we talked about last week, the Gen Con sort of feeling of people missing the things that weren't available there, and then just sort of the national news of Gen Con taking place. So Target stores put a Gen Con promo code for 10% off of almost every board game that you could have gotten at Gen Con or things that were releases from Gen Con. Now, what that's going to do is that's going to drive people who are not at Gen Con at all to go pick up those games that they missed out on getting, because they feel like they're getting a discount based on just that, that convention taking place, right? It's also going to drive people who went to Gen Con to pick up the things they weren't able to pick up afterwards, because A, they're getting still a little bit of a discount, and B, now they're home. They don't have to worry about getting it into a suitcase. And the last thing it does is it actually boosts Gen Con's national profile, because you've got Target stores saying we're giving a promo based on what is essentially, I guess the word would be, I don't know if it is, but Gen Con says that it is the largest North American board gaming convention. So you've got Target stores essentially putting up a big flag saying this board gaming thing is real. Like, if you guys aren't paying attention, we're giving out a promo code based on the name of the largest board gaming convention in North America. That's a huge signal boost for our industry. That's a huge thing just in terms of like national distribution and the way that Target is really embracing board games. I am not huge on big box stuff. Like, we are an independent publisher. You guys know that. But I think the fact that these large corporations are starting to understand the value of board games is something super special, and I think we should all be somewhat thankful that even large corporations are starting to embrace, bigger publishers and bring their games in. It can only bring more fans to the hobby. It can only bring more people out to these conventions. It can only bring more people into this thing we love. So we want to be visible to the world. I mean, that's how games get out, is they're visible. And I think that there is something great to the fact that a major corporation like Target is putting this much of their time and their marketing investment into board games. That's not to say they're not making money. That's not to say that the people at the other end are making money. But at the end of the day, it's still better that we have this reach than if we didn't, in my opinion. So I think it's really cool that they did that promo code. I think it's really cool for Gen Con to have worked with Target to do that. I think that's starting to show our mainstream access is growing. In terms of tabletop stuff, I mean, the fact that we were able to, with a guitar game, get an article in Guitar World based on having a guitar board game. That's another, like, we can touch mainstream areas all over, and it just grows the hobby. So I think that's something that we should definitely focus on as publishers or designers, is ways to grow the hobby via, large visibility. And part of that ties back to what I talked about earlier today, which is, crazy looking shelf presence, really, really good looking stuff. And then from there, I mean, themes that maybe aren't the same old, don't burn people out. Let's give some new hot stuff. I mean, of course, there's going to always be games that come in the medieval or fantasy genre that do well and that people enjoy. But like I said, as an indie publisher, I like to see a lot of those little weird things that are sort of outside of the box. Let's see here. Ian says, send a bunch of people to Target.com for Nyctophobia because it's sold out super fast each day. I saw Nyctophobia. That was actually on my list to pick up, but I could not. I am doing my best not to buy so many games that I cannot open and play. Nyctophobia is on my list for sure to grab. I am so proud of what that is in terms of, Catherine's like, it just knocked it out of the park in terms of the game design. But what that is that's a labor of love and something she wanted to create for someone in her life she cared about that had no way to play, a traditional board game easily with other people. And that's just like that kind of motivation to make a game is freaking awesome. Like, that's the kind of thing that I always want to see. It's just, I mean, I wish I had some story like that about any of my games. It's really not. It's just because I was bored and I wanted to make some stuff. Hers is like an altruistic game that had an unbelievably amazing purpose and then also is an amazing game. So yeah, Nyctophobia is something I plan on doing sort of a deep dive into one whole week, as a matter of fact. But yeah, and then on top of that, as an Eagles fan, slight Eagles fan who only recently got our first championship, she wears a Buffalo Bills hat, Catherine, and so I can identify with following a franchise that's been terrible for their entirety of their football career. Although I don't watch sports much anymore, so. Yeah, Target is killing the board game hustle, Eric says. They're really paying attention to the community. I think I agree with that. I think that if you look at their board game selection, it is a vast variety. So they are clearly not just catering to the party game anymore. Although they have a large selection of party games, they have a pretty good selection of games that are actually medium to even, I would say, heavyweight. I mean, if you look at things like, Risk Europe, that's a relatively heavyweight game, and they sell it at a regular interval from what I understand. So I think that's about it. We have run like almost 45 minutes this week. I knew we had a lot to talk about, but goodness gracious. I hope, excuse me, I hope y'all are all having a wonderful week. I hope that you're having a cup of coffee. I hope that if you're designing a game, that it moves forward. If you're playing a game, that you enjoy it. Let's go ahead and call it a week. I really, really appreciate you all being here. Thank you again. I'm going to get back to work in this gloomy, gloomy weather and get some things done. And then we will see y'all next week, same time, 2:30. Thanks again, and have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye-bye.